I made thunderous mistakes. So yes, I've got better judgment at 51 now because of my appallingly bad judgment. And there's nothing, my mistakes have been put on the public stage. Other people's mistakes aren't. And there are many things that are good, but good news doesn't sell papers.
In a surprising turn of events, a recent decision from the British royal family has brought Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, to tears. Sarah, known to her fans as Fergie, has shown strength and kindness despite years of public criticism. However, this royal decision deeply affected her. What happened behind the scenes? Why did it make Sarah so emotional? Let's explore the royal choice that moved Sarah Ferguson to tears. Royal Lodge, the fortress of defiance. At the center of this royal drama is the Royal Lodge, a large 30-room house in Windsor Great Park. For Prince Andrew, it's more than just a home. It's his refuge. The lodge, financed through questionable money and renovations, has faced rumors of debts and a family wanting him to leave. But for Andrew, it's not just about the building. It's his way of saying, "I'm still relevant." For King Charles, however, it was just another problem to deal with. Inside those fancy walls, Charles was clear. Scandals don't disappear. They get hidden. After the Epstein situation and other embarrassments, the king decided it was time for Andrew to take responsibility differently. Instead of money, the king wanted silence. This wasn't about kindness. It was about managing the royal image until things settled down. The proposal was straightforward. Andrew should leave the lodge for 2 smaller homes, in exchange for keeping quiet. At first, Andrew resisted, delaying, as if this were his final stand. Then Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, stepped in. She understood what Andrew didn't. This was an opportunity to secure their future and maintain some dignity. But there would be a cost. Fast forward to 2024, things in Windsor are tense. Charles's health is under scrutiny. William is preparing for his future role, and Camilla's influence is growing. The royal family is trying to rebrand itself before the next generation takes over. But Andrew is still at the lodge, acting like a ghost from a troubling past. Rumors suggest Charles offered Frogmore Cottage or other options, but Andrew refused. For him, moving meant losing his last piece of royal identity. Duties were gone, titles stripped, and his mother's influence waning. Lodge was his previous claim to significance. When Charles finally had enough, he shifted from brother to king. The offer became a command. 2 homes for a promise of silence for life. It's said this deal is firm. No books, no Netflix specials, no chats with reporters, not even off-the-record comments. Andrew and Sarah must stay quiet about family issues, financial matters, and stories about the lodge. For Charles, it's about securing his legacy, especially given his uncertain health and the high public attention. No more leaks allowed. And then there's Sarah, the wild card. She's been in this situation before, selling stories for money, and now she's making a deal to stay silent. But the question remains, is Charles trying to cover up past mistakes? Or is he protecting someone who is still in trouble? Let's dig deeper. The King's Silent Purge, a royal cleansing. In the royal family, money and influence are closely connected. A small mistake or rumor can severely damage their reputation. Andrew's connection to Epstein almost caused a major scandal. Charles understands that the monarchy cannot handle another crisis, especially when people question its integrity. The situation with the lodge feels serious. It's not just a quiet exit. It seems like a significant effort to protect the monarchy from potential problems. It's as if they are rewriting their story before anyone else can do it. However, there's a tension around this final call. Picture Andrew and Sarah, who used to enjoy time with the Queen at Balmoral and watch their daughters play in the palace grounds. Now, they are leaving with little fanfare, just a handshake and a confidentiality agreement. The atmosphere is tense, with only whispered conversations behind closed doors. Sarah is known for her willingness to share stories for payment. Here lies the risk. The more you try to silence someone, the more curious people become. The tabloids label it an amicable wrap, while palace insiders call it essential trim. The gossip suggests a deal was made, and they are essentially being paid off. The negotiations took months, resulting in documents that imply a forced exit with some benefits. Imagine signing documents that mean you can no longer identify with a name that once held significance. You trade your story for financial support. You realize that your memories and experiences now belong to the crown. Underneath the public relations surface, there's a sense of panic about potential leaks and the loss of control. And the concerning rumor? This silence might not last long. It could continue beyond this moment, with diaries, letters, and unfinished books being locked away until the royals decide otherwise. Royal secrets often resurface. Some say Sarah copied everything and shared it with a trusted person. A countdown is quietly happening. The secrets the royal family hopes to hide have a way of coming back. What triggered this drastic action? It all began with a letter meant to remain private, written on fine paper, sealed with a king's crest, and signed by a king at his breaking point. For years, Charles endured Andrew's rebellious actions, delays, and discreet hints about wanting a return to respect. But one winter, a letter arrived from Buckingham Palace that changed everything. What did it say? Let's find out. The final warning and Sarah's rebellion. The atmosphere at Royal Lodge changed the day that the letter arrived. It landed right on the glossy desk where Andrew used to write his orders and those awkward sorry not sorry notes. The man who once walked in dressed sharply now faced the harsh reality of being labeled a liability by the royal family. This letter wasn't a friendly chat. It carried the weight of the throne. Sarah opened it and felt her stomach drop. The tone felt icy, just like it had in the past. But now there was an edge to it. His Majesty requires your prompt compliance. That was all it said, but they both understood the message. Comply or risk losing everything. There was no invitation for tea or warm words, just the cold machinery of the royal family in action. Aides, attorneys, and advisors. Rumor had it that Camilla pushed hardest for this. To her, Andrew wasn't family. He was a blemish on her and Charles's efforts to clean up their image. There was no mercy left. Charles wasn't acting out of spite. He was playing a strategic game. The palace had been quietly making changes for months, cutting budgets and refreshing the royal image for a new era. People wanted a leaner royal family, with every penny accounted for. Andrew, however, remained in his vast residence, enjoying royal perks as if they were his right. While Charles faced criticism for his small steps, Andrew's attitude highlighted unchecked entitlement. Enough was enough. Andrew became a test case. Could the king cut ties with his own family? The letter represented more than just a request to leave. It was about obedience. Would Andrew finally submit to his brother's wishes, or continue to behave as if he were untouchable? Charles believed he understood the situation. Andrew had always been difficult, spoiled and quick to react, thinking he was above it all. One insider even said, "The Duke made it clear. Lodge is not up for negotiation." But beneath that bravado was fear. If he left, he might lose all support. For Sarah, the situation felt chaotic. She had learned to balance being close enough for royal perks while also maintaining her side ventures. Her interactions with Charles had been polite, but now everything had shifted. The king was done being lenient. This wasn't just family drama. It was a serious matter for the institution, and it made her uneasy. Losing the lodge meant losing her status and relevance. She had worked hard to be seen as the fun duchess that people liked. If she lost that, she'd risk becoming yesterday's news. But Sarah was a fighter. She had turned past scandals into opportunities before. When Andrew handed her the letter, she didn't panic or get angry. Instead, she poured herself a drink, settled into her armchair, and said, "If he wants us out, let's make him pay for the best deal we can get." Was it bold? Absolutely. Risky? Possibly. But that was Sarah. Clever and brave, ready to take charge. She wasn't just fighting for a place to stay. She was fighting for information. Over the years, she had gathered stories, secrets from Elizabeth's tease, Diana's struggles, and William and Kate's rise. The palace knew she had this knowledge. The game wasn't just about property anymore. It was about influence. The crown feared scandal, but exposure was their biggest nightmare. Sarah knew how to wield that fear effectively. Meanwhile, inside the palace, whispers grew about Charles's health. The royal staff prepared for what would happen next and wanted to keep past issues hidden. So how did Charles plan to close the chapter on Andrew for good? Let's find out. The king's last bargain. For King Charles, time was slipping away, not just in terms of the calendar, but also on the hold he had over the monarchy. He understood that once it was William's turn, every loose end would end up on his son's plate. Nothing screamed loose end louder than his younger brother Andrew, who had turned fade away into a captivating spectacle after the scandals rocked his image. To Charles, this was no longer about sibling tidying up. It was a full-scale cleaning mission to ensure the crown shone brightly before the transition. Then came the letter, sharp, straightforward, the type of correspondence that landed with the weight of a judge's gavel. Andrew? He glared at it on that same desk where he once drafted parade orders. And later, those cringeworthy letters of regret. The days of pride in his uniform? Gone. Now he faced the gut-wrenching reality. The family was dragging him down. This was no casual chat. This letter carried the weight of the throne. Sarah opened the envelope, her chest tightening, that cold, polite tone, the same one that had excluded her in the past. His Majesty expects your swift compliance, period. But the unspoken message in the air was clear. Conform or watch everything collapse. No bro hugs, no let's discuss it. Just the cold machinery of the firm. Suits, scribes, and secret sharks. As for Camilla, rumors suggested she was the driving force behind it all. Andrew wasn't family to her. He was more like a coffee stain on her freshly laundered linens. Kindness? Wholly revoked. Charles? No explosive rage, just pure strategy. The palace had been subtly restructuring for months, tightening budgets, prepping for the anticipated William wave. The public was clamoring for accountability. Every estate scrutinized, every penny accounted for. And Andrew? He was hoarding his lavish 30-room residence, draining royal resources as if they were infinite. While Charles faced criticism for being too timid, Andrew's bunker mentality had become the epitome of unchecked privilege. Time was up. Andrew was the guinea pig, an example that the king could indeed clip his own wings. The note communicated a clear message: comply or face consequences. Charles had a hunch about how this would go. Andrew had always been a thorn in his side, pampered, volatile, wrapped in a protective bubble. A reliable source leaked: the Duke's stance, lodge stays mine. But underneath that bravado, fear. Cross that threshold, and the velvet rope separating him from the royal privileges would disappear forever. For Sarah, it was a tangled web of emotions. She had navigated these waters for years, close enough to grab royal scraps, far enough to maintain her own hustle for gossip when the coffers were low. Charles's demeanor? A mix of polite nods and occasional warmth. But now, a chilling shift. The king had traded softness for steel. This wasn't just about brotherly conflict. It was an institutional lockdown that sent chills down her spine. No lodge, goodbye status, spotlight, and that Windsor address that kept her in the game. She had rebuilt her life as the cheeky duchess, the underdog everyone could root for. Losing the spotlight? That meant a return to being yesterday's news. But Sarah? A survivor of scandal. She had turned fires into success before, ashes into assets. Faced with the letter, she didn't crumble or lash out. Instead, she poured herself a strong drink, sank into velvet, and drawled, "If he wants us out, let's make him pay for the view." Bold? You bet. Risky? Certainly. But Fergie had a razor-sharp mind, and she was adept at flipping the narrative. It wasn't walls she was bargaining for. It was leverage. Her last genuine hold. Decades of collecting scraps. Tea-time gossip from Liz. The heartaches of Diana. The rise of Will and Kate. And Andrew's downfall. She had knowledge that the palace feared. They were well aware she was privy to their secrets. The game had flipped from tangible assets to the dread of exposure. The crown feared scandal, knowing that revealing too much could unleash chaos. What were the palace's inner workings? A smoldering anxiety about Charles's health continually circulated among the well-dressed officials and doctors. The firm was preparing for what's next, and that next. No place for dusty skeletons or grievance holders lamenting the past. So, how would Charles devise a way to manage the situation with Andrew for good? Stay tuned. Sarah Ferguson's silent rebellion. Sarah Ferguson pulled off a move that left many royal watchers stunned, turning a crown-sized threat into her own personal poker game. With her easy grin and the kind of warmth that catches you off guard, she understood Charles's soft spot. He feared a PR disaster more than a family feud. The royal family had endured enough scandals to fill a tabloid graveyard, and another Andrew alert could have been the final blow. Sarah recognized the stakes all too well. Beneath her disarming charm, she has always been a fierce competitor, starting as a palace outsider and evolving into the resilient duchess who faced challenges head-on. Over the years, she had taken note of every loose thread, every offhand remark, and every incident that happened in Windsor. Now, it was time to use that knowledge to her advantage. Imagine her and Andrew at the lodge, divorced on paper, but inseparable in practice, sharing breakfast conversations, exchanging Christmas wrapping paper as if it were no big deal, and supporting each other through Andrew's difficult times. It might seem strange, even by royal standards, exes, partners, or some ambiguous hybrid, but for her, the lodge was a haven, a familiar space, and a quiet truce after facing external pressures. Relocating would not just be a house hunt, it would remove her last stable footing. Charles had a problem. If he wanted to cut ties with Andrew and Sarah, he would need to make a deal. Reactions at the palace were divided. Some people warned that giving in to their demands would cause more issues, while a few legal advisors suggested, offer them everything. Keeping them quiet will cost less than dealing with their complaints. Charles disliked this idea, but knew it could be necessary. He worried that Andrew's outbursts and Sarah's gossip could lead to serious trouble. That night, he walked the halls of Clarence's house and decided to have his secretary draft a confidentiality agreement. When Andrew's team received it, they became furious and called it a muzzle. Andrew, furious and pounding the desk, said, "After everything I've done for this family, this is how they repay me?" Meanwhile, Sarah stayed calm. She looked closely at the agreement, seeing it as an opportunity rather than a punishment. To her, it was a way to gain leverage through careful wording. What do you think about the jaw-dropper that left Sarah in tears? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this royal drama got your heart racing, give it a like and subscribe for more insights into palace happenings.